Okay, we're back again here. You'll notice on the screen that I've connected in as Bill, and I'm on the machine of Bill's Solaris graphic user interface here, and I'm connecting through a Windows machine using remote desktop connection to a Windows 2012 server. On that Windows 2012 server, I am going into Hyper-V, and in Hyper-V, I have a virtual machine installed that is Solaris 11 with full graphic desktop and everything else that comes off of the live installation CD. Now, one of the biggest problems we have is depending upon what flavor of Unix or Solaris you're using here, and the most pointers and a lot of the device drivers that you use that may work in Windows don't always work in a virtual machine or a Unix or Linux or Solaris, for that all that matters, properly here. So in our instance here, right, what happens is if I go into here, you'll notice there's a little arrow down there that should be showing where the mouse pointer is. If I click inside my system from my Windows machine, it says mouse not captured in remote desktop. Basically what it means is the mouse pointer in my Solaris graphic user interface and my mouse on my normal computer don't like each other. They're not talking to each other here. So I'm going to have to do everything inside the GUI interface through command line. So I press Control Escape. Let's go look at creating users. I press Control Escape. It opened up my application drop-down window. I'm going to right-click over to Places, right-click over to System, and I'm going to go down to Administration. And then I'm going to go down to User Manager. Now, for unique, unexplained reasons, and somebody else can fill you in on this stuff here, there are times where in Solaris, it doesn't like or doesn't let me create users as User Manager. Whether I open up User Manager from the desktop as Bill and then change roles, or I go into a command line and type in usermgr and open up the User Manager as root already, I get system errors when I create users here. So let me show you what I mean here. Right now, I've opened up User Manager. I've opened up User Bill. Okay? If I press Tab, watch what happens. Right? I start manipulating and moving around the screen. Right now, I'm at New. Then I go Filter. You see the box? When I go up to here, I'm allowed to change users. So I'm going to go back to where it said New. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to create a user as Bill. Now remember, Bill has no special privileges other than being able to assume the user root. And that is only as a role. Okay? So if I type this in, I press Enter, or Tab in I should say, I'm now going to tab down until I get to the first box. There I am. And I'm going to create a user called Test1. And I'm going to go Test1. User ID, by default, the system gives a number to the user ID. The very first user you create, Bill, which in my situation was user 100, has a user ID of 100. The next user I created would be 101, 102, 103, 104. So I could either go down to user ID and do a default, or I could choose and give this person an arbitrary number. I'm going to give this person an arbitrary number 110. There is no rhyme or reason why I did that. I just decided to do that. Okay, all right, I just chose a number. I go down to Tab. If I press the down arrow here, right, you notice there are no groups or anything else that's going to change. Excuse me. Okay, for creating a home directory in Solaris, home directories are created in export/home. So I'm going to go /export/home/ and I want the file to match the user ID, so I got to put capital TEST1. Okay, but you'll notice as a generic user or as a normal user, as a basic user, as Bill, I can't add this person's password. Let's go to OK. Excuse me. And I type OK. I get an error. All right. Basically, this error is that I don't have permissions to be able to do this. It's not allowing me through the GUI interface or whatever to be able to change the user lists. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to cancel this stuff. So I'm going to go tab till I get back down to the word cancel. Now, I'm going to, you'll notice I'm not going to press tab because right as soon as I close this up, I've got this lock and it says it's unlocked here. And it's got the box around it here. So that's where I'm active. I press enter and I'm going to change. I can go down to change to root at Bill, or I can go down and change roles. Okay. Now, as a generic user or basic user, Bill, they have no privileges to be able to create any users, any modifications, so forth. The only people who can change users, add users, do any modification is either somebody who has the root role capability or is root user. Now, in Solaris, there is no root user where we set this system up. There's only a root role, and people take that role. Or I can create any other roles that give the people permission to change accounts, passwords, etc. But for now, by default, we're still in a new scenario here. I'm going to change over to the root role. Now, remember, I'm the user Bill. I'm undertaking the role. In other words, I'm pretending to be the user called root, even though there is no user root. And I'm going to type in my password to do so. And I've changed over. Now, as root, generically through a command line, root can create users. Okay? So I'm just going to quickly go. I'm going to go into this stuff and I'm going to quickly go and create a user. There's where I am at my active screen. I'm going to tab. Oops, I didn't hit tab. Tab. See the box disappears. And I go down to where tab again one more time and I get down to where it says new. I now press enter on the keyboard here. It opens up my screen. Now, this is in normal instances or in other versions of Linux and Unix, this will work no problem at all. I go down here, I create test one. Oops, I guess I should watch what I cap locks. That looks better. Yes, it does. Of course, if I could type right, test one, tab, again. Press tab. Now, by default, as I said earlier, the first user is created as user ID 100. The next user ID is 101, 102, etc., etc., etc. So I can either let the system put in an automatic user ID or I can type in a manual ID. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to let the system do its own thing here. You'll notice now there is staff because this is the default group. Okay, so all users that are created, basically, they're just basic users, simple users, generic users, whatever term you want to use, are all going to be put into staff, which you can change later on. Home directory, I'm going to put this in. I know it's Solaris /export /home capital TEST1 to match the user. Okay, I'm going to keep the user bin bash login shell the default, and I'm going to put in the person's password. I made a mistake. One of the big things is I make the mistake. I try to type too fast. When I'm doing this, I found that there are times when I have to slow down and type the password and think when I'm typing, because otherwise I start developing error messages. It's a common mistake. We all do it. Press OK. Error adding system error. It's the same error I got 2 minutes ago as a user Bill who's not undertaking the roles. Right? This is in normal other systems. This will happen, no problem. You will have no problems at all. You'll create the user here. But for some interesting scenario inside Solaris, right, inside a virtual machine using remote desktop here, we get this error message. And the basic assumption here is this. Sorry, let me just, oops, click on here again here. is this. When I start the system up, I'm just going to cancel here. When I start the system up and then I log in through the graphic user interface, when it opens up User Manager, for some unique reason, it doesn't allow me, even though it shows me as being root here, it doesn't give me the permissions to be able to access the past WD and the related files that allow me to add and create users. All right? It has that problem. I can do this in other Unix systems. I have no problems at all. It works. Other Linux system, this way works. But for some interesting scenario, Solaris doesn't like doing this thing. So let me show you something very quickly here. I'm going to go Control Escape again. I am going to go down to Accessories. I'm going to go down to Terminal. I press Enter. All right. I'm in as Bill. I'm going to go SU root to take over the root role. Type in my password. I'm in as root, as you can see here. Now, I'm going to go user add, test, and I want to create user test 2 because we've been trying test 1. So I'm going to try to do a completely different user here, right? Okay. If I go display UID, there it is. Test 1 was never created, but test 2. So that means through terminal, this works no problem. I can go and use a command line. I can get my user. No issues here. All right. So let's exit out of here. Alt File, then Keyboard. Close window. All right. Now, I'm going to press Tab just to show that I'm in here. Okay. I'm going to cancel this screen. I'm out of there. Okay, so I'm closed it all up here. Now, let me go Control Escape. So I've cleared off my desktop. I'm going to go to System, Administration, go down to Users, and lo and behold, the program still picks up on a refresh that, hey, there was another user created. That's great. Okay, but it still doesn't let me create users in User Manager. So it's a little bit of a flaw in the system. So when you're going to create users and you have your desktop, the easiest way still, go to Terminal, type in user add, and create your user. Now, if I'm here, and let me just go down to, there it is, there's my users. Now, even though I've got this box selected, I type down, just use down arrow to build. Let me go to test. So I've been using my mouse here. There I am. Now I'm at test. If I press enter here, right? This is a flaw. Like I'm trying to do something, trying to change users or anything else or modify users here. It just doesn't, like I've got these weird things happening inside my Solaris desktop here, right? So if I press tab, okay, let me just try this again. Let me just get out of here. There I am. Okay, see, now as soon as I press tab, watch this screen here. There it is. Now it shows me as Bill here. If I down arrow here, as soon as I open up test, it opens up here. All right. Now, the reason it won't let me do anything is because I'm still logged in as user Bill. So in order for me to do any work into here, I have to go and change my role capability. If I press down arrow or I press enter right now, I have to go and become root role in order to do any work for any of the users here. So for example, I go back in here. Now I'm in as root. I press tab. I down arrow to test 2, and I press enter, and it gives me root. I'm still root. I'm trying to do this test. It's telling me I want to change root. This all shows that this is a little bit of a problem inside User Manager. So If you don't have to use User Manager, for whatever reason it is, you better not to use it. Better not use it, better not use it. Don't use it. Don't use it. Right? What you need to do is do all this stuff through terminal. It's a lot easier to modify users and so forth. Just load the command line stuff here.